what about smaller tactical nuclear weapons that could be used on a battlefield? The Conservative MP and former Foreign Office and Defence Minister Tobias Ellwood believes they are likely to be used in the next 10 years, and he's with us now. Good morning to you.
Good morning. I'm glad you qualified that. That's what I'm suggesting will happen, is the use of a tactical low-yield nuclear weapon rather than nuclear war, which I think it's important to distinguish. We need to recognize that inventions come along that change the face of the battle space, the character of warfare. It go back in our history, the longbow, the Gatling gun, the battle tank, and of course the drone, as we saw in Ukraine and recently in Iran. And the first to harness their use has the military advantage. But unlike the battle tank or the drone, which have become ubiquitous, the use of the atomic bomb was never repeated, thankfully, given its colossal destructive power. And because of the likelihood of both sides losing, of complete Armageddon. So to keep the Cold War from getting hot, we had rules, we had regulations, we had agreements, robust treaties and so forth, even inspections and of course back channels. And when the end of the Cold War came about, we even had reduction in stockpiles as well. What I'm trying to argue is that those days are over. The back channels have gone, the treaties have lapsed, and another nuclear arms race has been developing under our noses. And when you come to look at dictators such as Putin, where losing is not in its vocabulary, that does mean that we're now seeing the proliferation of nuclear weapons, particularly low yield, as you suggest, in my view, will be fired in the next decade.
Can you just explain then, because there are many people listening, myself included, who are not weapons experts, and we talk about kind of smaller tactical nuclear weapons that could be used on a battlefield, lower grade, so to speak. What exactly are we talking about, and who has them?
That's exactly right. I mean, strategic intercontinental ballistic missiles are designed to be targeted at the enemy's homeland, probably far away from their war front itself, designed to take out industries, cities, military bases, and so forth. Hiroshima was 15 kilotons. Today's typical strategic bomb is between 100 and 500 kiloton. A tactical small explosive power is 1 kiloton, potentially maybe up to 50. It's used on the battlefield far closer to where friendly forces and enemy forces are operating. Could be dropped from a plane, even fired from an artillery piece such as a howitzer and so forth. That is what Russia is now developing at pace, and its tactics, its doctrine does not distinguish between the utility of military conventional and nuclear weapon systems. And that's my concern, is that this is all happening in front of us. We are so distracted by where the world is going in different areas of conflict, but we're not seeing this development that is happening. And I'm simply saying it needs to be addressed in some form or other.
Yeah, and how do you address that if Russia are developing these? There's no dialogue there. There are, you say, the treaties have lapsed. How on earth, how do you address that?
Well, you begin by having a sober conversation, and it clearly is sober, to recognize what Russia is doing. It's developing not just its intercontinental arsenal, its hypersonic program as well, but particularly developing over 2,000 tactical low-yield nuclear weapons, which don't come under any treaty whatsoever. And Putin's completely modernizing all its ability to drop nuclear weapons as well. So its platforms, land, air, and sea, particularly the short-range capabilities. On top of that, we've also got China that's embarked on the world's largest nuclear force expansion program in the world. And it's gone from 300 warheads, we understand, in 2019 to over 1,000 by the end of the decade. But all built up in opacity, all built up in an absence of transparency and verification. And the world needs to start shouting louder to say, we need to get back to those treaties, those agreements, the openness and transparency, because although one low-yield nuclear weapon used on a battlefield may seem very different to what we imagine in our mind as the utility of a bomb, it's opening up that Pandora's box. So it's crossing a line which we're not going to be able to row back from. The use of a nuclear weapon, which thankfully we've not seen over 7 decades.
The RAF played a crucial role shooting down some of the Iranian drones that targeted Israel. Alongside American and French planes, they helped make Iran's massive attack nearly harmless. So why can't the West play a similar role in Ukraine, protecting people there from the endless Russian missile attacks? We asked the Foreign Secretary, David Cameron, that when we spoke to him yesterday. In response, he said that the UK had led support for Ukraine.
Well, we've done a huge amount to help Ukraine with its defence. We've trained 60,000 Ukrainian soldiers. We were the first to give anti-tank weapons, the first to give long-range artillery, the first to give tanks, the first to give long-range weapons. And the Ukrainians, whenever you go there, whenever you talk to them, they single out Britain as the country that's done more than anyone else to defend them.
So, David Cameron talking there about artillery, tanks, long-range weapons, but not air cover. So what do the Ukrainians make of that? Let's speak, as we have before, to Captain Andrii Kulish, a Ukrainian soldier and YouTuber who posts as Operator Starsky. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Do you think that when you see what Britain did in terms of helping to defend Israel from Iranian missile and drone strikes at the weekend, do you think that we should do the same for Ukraine?
Well, the question is why not? Because what we saw in Israel were ballistic missiles, were drones like Shahed drones, the same type that hits Ukrainian civilian infrastructure since 2022. Is absolutely the same type of drone built by the same people and launched, well, mostly by the same terrorists. And I don't see a reason why those drones cannot be shot down by our allies, because they're striking same people as in Israel, same civilian infrastructure, same hospitals and kindergartens, and of course we should protect them somehow, and we'll be really happy if our allies could help us with that. Because one thing I want to make very clear: Ukrainian people do value and appreciate the help provided by the United Kingdom. We do value all the training and all the skills that were shared with our soldiers. We do value all the vehicles that were provided to us, but at the same time, air defense is crucial. Currently, at this point, air defense is very crucial for Ukrainians. The reason we have so many losses in the past 3 months is literally because of not only because of lack of artillery shells, but also because of the failed air defense. We don't have enough missiles, and unfortunately, we only have 2 Patriot systems that provide cover for whole Ukraine.
But so when we asked David Cameron, why won't you do it in one situation, but you will in another? And he said the situations are different. Now, you can read into that, and a number of different things, I suppose, in terms of international airspace, in terms of the people involved, in terms of the threat of Russia as compared to the threat of Russia to the UK, if it gets involved at this level, as opposed to the threat to the UK from a country like Iran. What's your understanding of why British politicians think the 2 situations are different?
So when we talk about such things, I don't want to quote our authorities, who basically said that mostly it's because of not authorities. It was chief of the Center for Studying Russia, Mr. Ogrysko. He said it's because of the fear. Because there are the same missiles flying from Iran and landing in civilian areas, but I think it's because of the fear, because those special missiles are being launched by the Russians, and Russians have nukes. I would not call it fear. Of course, we all understand that every nation has its national interests, and we all care about our national security on the first place. It's a normal thing. Nobody calls the British people to rush to the crowd and help Ukrainians. But what people must understand is that Ukrainians are lacking some very, very crucial support right at this point.
Now, President Zelensky has said before, not recently, but he said, since October the 7th, that the war in Israel has detracted from his own fight, his fight against Russia, your fight against Russia, and that there's the kind of support from the West in general seems to be waning a bit. Do you agree with that? Do you feel that?
We do big time, because it's not like the war in Israel distracted people from our thing. It's because such processes that we see in the US, for example, they are destructive in terms of the aid, not only to Ukraine but also to Israel, and a lot of Ukrainian lives were lost because of the hesitation, and that's the problem.
Well, listen, thank you very much for talking to us. It's very interesting to get your perspective. A lot of people getting in touch with us, Andrii, actually, a lot of our listeners saying, what about Ukraine? What about Ukraine? In response to what happened at the weekend. So thank you. No doubt we'll speak to you again. That's Captain Andrii Kulish. He's a Ukrainian soldier